Good morning and welcome to the final event of the Inter-Europe Setup Project. Accelerating the Smart Grid Transition in Europe, a blueprint for regional action, is the title of our conference. And indeed today we will talk about smart grids as a key driver for energy transition and on the special role of regions and public policies in supporting the development of smart grids across Europe. Regions are indeed the key players of the energy transition, as a testbed for new models and technologies, as innovation ecosystems involving business, research and public authorities, and as important link between decision-making and needs of each territory. So how to boost the deployment of smart grids at regional level will be the question we will try to answer today. I'm Sara Minisini, the Setup Coordinator on behalf of the lead partner, Development Innovation, and together with the other partners of the Setup project, coming from 6 European regions, we will present the results of this 5-year journey, which is the Setup, our experience as public authorities, and concrete examples of smart grid projects implemented in our regions. Looking at the agenda of this morning, we will start with an introduction to the project and the main lessons learned. 3 panel sessions will follow, where the project partners will illustrate concrete examples of public support to smart grids, with a first focus on funding and models. We will have the time for a short break before talking about the long-term support given to the sector through strategies and regulations. And also have an overview of what it is expected for smart grids at European level in the next programming period, thanks to the presentations of our invited speakers from Inter-Europe and the European Commission. We will conclude our morning session at 12:30, but the event will continue this afternoon with the 2 thematic sessions on self-consumption and storage. You will have the chance to know more about the main challenges and also market opportunities in these fields, and learn from case studies from Brittany, Andalusia, and Algarve, 3 of our partner regions. If you haven't registered yet, you can do it through the link that is posted in the chat. I will moderate this morning session and interview our speakers, so you will see me on stage all the morning long. But as a participant, you can also be able to play an active role in the event by writing in the chat, asking your questions, or participating in the polls that we will organize during the 3 panel sessions. You have a special area on the right side of your screen, and our external project manager, Sara Banchi from Resolvo, will moderate this area. So, are we ready to start? We thought that the best way, of course, to start our event was to present Setup. And for that, we have prepared a short video that will explain what the project is in 1 minute. Have a look. So this is set up, and you have seen that the exchange of good practices among regions has been really at the core of the project and has allowed our 6 partner regions to bring home important lessons on smart grid development and transfer it into concrete actions within the regional policy frameworks. In addition, during the project, the role of stakeholders and public authorities, both regional and national, has been really critical to improve our public policies and guarantee that actions implemented at regional level were in line with specific territorial needs. Let's now listen together to the feedback of the Regional Councillor for Energy Transition at the Brittany region on how setup has got an impact in our region.
Alors le projet européen Setup, c'est un projet dit interreg, donc qui réunit un certain nombre de régions d'Europe. Là en l'occurrence ce sont des crédits d'ingénierie donc financés sur des fonds européens. C'est un projet consacré au réseau énergétique piloté, ce qu'on appelle les smart grids, et c'est le seul, dans le cadre de la dernière programmation interreg, c'était le seul projet de cette nature en Europe. On peut tirer plusieurs bilans, notamment déjà en termes d'axes forts du projet. Tout d'abord, la question des modèles économiques en matière de réseau énergétique piloté. Le second axe, c'est aussi la question de la participation citoyenne, notamment quand on recherche, quand on travaille sur l'efficacité énergétique. L'enjeu de la participation et de l'adhésion des citoyens est essentiel. Et en troisième volet, les recherches de financement. Donc ça s'est concrétisé pour ce qui nous concerne par 2 projets phares en Bretagne. Le projet Solène, qui justement vise à impliquer les citoyens dans leur consommation, dans le suivi de leur consommation, et avec un volet exploitation des données, la possibilité aussi justement d'être transparent sur la donnée énergétique vis-à-vis des citoyens et d'intégrer cette question des données dans le pilotage des réseaux, notamment pour les exploitants de réseaux. Et puis le deuxième projet, nous sommes ici dans les locaux de l'association SMILE, une association interrégionale, Bretagne et Pays de Loire, qui justement porte et accompagne les entreprises sur des projets dits de réseau énergétique pilotés, avec en particulier beaucoup de projets d'autoconsommation collective qui ont émergé. Donc le SMILE a été vraiment le révélateur pour ce qui nous concerne de la dynamique des projets de réseau énergétique intelligent. Nous, on tire l'enseignement premier peut-être autour justement des autoconsommations collectives, qui était un sujet qu'on ne maîtrisait pas bien jusqu'à présent, jusqu'au projet Interreg, qui d'ailleurs devient un des piliers de la dynamique SMILE. Et on a travaillé sur 2 sujets avec des appels à projets dédiés spécifiquement à cette question de l'autoconsommation collective et également au stockage des énergies renouvelables, parce que la question de l'intégration des énergies renouvelables peut nécessiter aussi des solutions de stockage. Et donc c'est ces deux projets qu'on a particulièrement développés dans le cadre de Setup. Alors on trouve une traduction assez logique pour nous de Setup. C'est un peu un retour aux sources, je le disais, Setup est un projet Interreg porté par l'Europe. Et là, on arrive dans la nouvelle période de contractualisation des fonds européens pour le Conseil régional, dans les échanges qu'on a avec l'État et l'Europe. Et on a identifié dans les fonds FEDER, qui sont un axe assez puissant d'accompagnement des projets, justement cette question du pilotage des réseaux énergétiques. Alors je dis des réseaux énergétiques parce que si à l'origine on réfléchissait surtout énergie électrique, et dans le cadre du projet SMILE et dans ce showroom, on développe beaucoup de projets autour des énergies électriques, mais aujourd'hui c'est multi-énergie, notamment le gaz, mais on travaille déjà sur l'hydrogène, et on aura aussi des systèmes de conversion d'un fluide énergétique ou d'un vecteur énergétique vers un autre. Et là, on aura des projets FEDER, sans doute, qui traduiront exactement ce qu'on avait identifié, ce qu'on avait fait émerger dans Setup. Donc c'est pour nous une traduction très naturelle et très concrète.
So what are the main lessons we learned within Setup on the main challenges to take into account, but also, and more important, on the role of public authorities in the development of smart grid? We will learn more from Ollie Frankland, a project manager at the region and our advisory partner in the project. So I invite Ollie to join me on stage and present all these lessons we learned during 5 years. Ollie, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you this morning. And I suppose, as has been highlighted already, very challenging to fit 5 years worth of work into a very short summary, which I'll attempt to do in the next few slides. But yes, so as I said, my name's Ollie Frankland. I work for a company called Regen. We're an independent not-for-profit based in the southwest of the UK. And we've been an advisory partner on the setup project, trying to help partners understand some of the aspects of smart grids. Great. If we just have the next slide, please. So I think, yeah, I've used this metaphor before, but I think it's an important metaphor to use to try and really understand what we're trying to do with smart grids, just to kind of pare it back a bit. So the electricity network is like any kind of type of infrastructure, and I've used the kind of transport road infrastructure as an example, as a metaphor here. When we have congestion on the network, so traffic jams on a road, but could be high voltage or a lack of capacity on the network. When we look at the electricity network, the conventional route is to follow that lower line here, is to go for bigger roads or bigger wires or bigger substations to try and deal with that problem. And definitely in the energy transition, what we're going to see is, particularly through the electrification of transport, electrification of heat, and we have more renewable energy generation coming onto the system. That causes a need for a lot more capacity, a lot more generation, a lot more demand. So we are going to have more congestion on the network. And instead of going for bigger substations, bigger roads, or bigger kind of network, bigger kit, we can use the smarter solutions, smart grids, and that can be in the form of more controls. So I'm going to use an example of like more junctions, more switching, more monitoring as well. It's crucial. So all of the control systems associated with that. The price signals as well are very important. So we need to try and get people to use energy or electricity at different times of the day to deal with that congestion and give them the price signals in order to do so. So that's just a very quick high level of why I think smart grids are so important, and yeah, it kind of gives us a little bit of context to start off. Next slide, please. So yes, the smart grids, as kind of has been alluded to already, we had 3 main challenges when it comes to smart grids. One that we identified initially at the start of the project. One is empowering consumers. It's a very technical area. It can be very difficult to understand. It can be quite difficult to communicate what is a very new set of technologies that are coming online very quickly, and they're going to have a big impact on us. So I think bringing consumers with us is going to be a thread throughout today's discussion, and how we kind of try and communicate these technical areas to consumers. And that's fundamental in a lot of the EU legislation that's come through in the recent few years. So that's great, and that we identified that early. Secondly is that economic and business models, it can be tricky in this new energy world to make these kind of models stack up. What level of grant funding might you need? What level of other support you might need? A change in price signals, removal of regulatory barriers. These are all things that we've talked about in setup over the years. Third point there is investment possibilities for smart network infrastructure. So again, I suppose a similar point. Who pays for the kit? Is it so that can be kind of potentially funded through kind of usage charges on the network? Is it funded through tax? Is it funded through grants? Who pays and when are really kind of big questions on as we go through these energy transition, as we kind of go to smarter grids, because some of this technology can be expensive, but it has lots of benefits. Next slide, please. So I've tried to pull together some of the kind of key learnings that we've had over the last few years in setup, which has been a challenge because there are lots. But I think one of the key ones, so the top one there, kind of regional action required for decentralized energy system. I think that's hard to overstate because the very nature of the transition to decentralized energy system with lots of prosumers, particularly with the decarbonisation of heat and electrification of heat. There's some real big challenges, and it's very difficult to do that at a macro scale. You really need to go down to the kind of regional, local scale in order to deal with those challenges. And setup has been very good at working with the regions and working with the stakeholders in those regions to try and pull together really strong local focus. So a couple of examples that we've pulled out in the best practice are kind of smart city Malaga in kind of Andalusia, which I think we might hear about later on, and also local energy loops from Brittany. So really good local action to try and really get some momentum, get some movement towards this smart energy future that we all need to go towards. Pardon me. So the second point there is around consumer information and engagement. Again, so kind of empowering consumers is one of the main challenges we identified, but how you package the information up and give it to consumers is very, very difficult and often and can be a significant challenge. And definitely working with communication specialists, and there's a kind of an image there at the bottom, which is from Smart Meters Energy GB, who are a government-backed campaign in the UK to try and improve awareness of smart meters. And it's one of the best practices we highlighted again, initially using a lot of kind of cartoons and kind of comedy to try and engage people in smart meters to understand that area. But I think increasingly move towards, well, now you need to deal with your carbon footprint. How do you become greener, and how do smart meters help in that transition? So that's been a kind of a really interesting difference in messaging that's come through over the years. Collaboration is a fundamental part of what setup has been doing. So we've been meeting very regularly, unfortunately not face to face anymore, but it's bringing together your stakeholders in your area and providing a really good kind of community to work on this smart grid problem has been a really kind of fundamental requirement for smart grid deployment in the different regions we talked to. Fourth point down there is removing regulatory barriers. There's been lots of barriers that have kind of come up over the last few years that we've identified across lots of different technologies, and the ability for national regulation to kind of help remove those barriers, help define these new technologies in law and in regulation has been really important. And there's still a bit of a way to go, but definitely some really good progress over the last few years that we've been running this project. And finally, optimizing funding mechanisms. So this may be a local grant fund, is the most obvious example, and there's been really good examples of how some of the best practices that we've had over the years have fed into shaping those grant funding mechanisms and making them, maximizing the benefits from those, and identifying certain aspects of different technologies that might be better for a smart grid, rather than just to support the technology. So that kind of network, smart network input has been really important over the last few years. Yeah, I think that was a very very quick run through of some of the key lessons. Apologies, it's been quite quick and a bit of a run through, but hopefully that gives you a little bit more of an understanding of some of the key points coming out. I think that's me, Sarah.
Many thanks, Ollie, for setting the context, actually, and for this comprehensive overview of the main lessons learned within setup, in particular on the role of public authorities in the deployment of smart grids at regional level. Thank you very much. And of course, we will see you again this afternoon as you will moderate the two thematic sessions that I remember will start at 2.
Indeed, 2 o'clock.
See you later. It's time now to listen to the experience of our project partners coming from Brittany, Hungary, Andalusia, Algarve, Lithuania, and Leicester, and learn more about the actions they implemented to support the smart grids in their territory. After their presentations, there will be time for an interview to get a bit more into the details of these actions. So don't hesitate to ask your question on the question area on the right side of your screen, and even more important, to participate in the poll that will be launched at the beginning of each panel session, and we will comment with Sarah on results at the end of each panel. So the first panel will focus on public support to business through funding, like the European Regional Development Fund, but also public support services. And we will explore the actions that have been launched in Leicester, in the UK, and Hungary. Actions inspired, of course, by the setup project. Michael Richardson from the Leicester City Council and Zoltán Baros from the Hungarian Ministry of Innovation and Technology are already on stage with me. Michael, I invite you to start and present your action in Leicester.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Thank you for inviting me along today. What I'm going to do, I'm going to give you an overview of the Green Bell project, which has been running in Leicester, as Sarah said. And basically, I don't have a lot of time to talk about this, obviously, because we've got quite a busy schedule today. But let's start by just saying, what is Green Bell? Green Bell is a project to deliver low carbon solutions to SMEs, that's small and medium-sized enterprises, businesses, in both Leicester and Leicestershire, which is the surrounding county to the city. Its primary objective is to reduce CO2 emissions by supporting the implementation of low carbon and renewable measures. There are many measures on offer, and they include things like LED lighting, photovoltaic paneling, insulation upgrades, battery storage, replacement windows, and upgrading of refrigeration equipment. Over the course of the Green Bell project, it will provide almost £2 million worth, which is about 2.28 million euros, current rates, of capital and revenue support to assist in the region of 295 businesses over its lifetime. Currently, CO2 savings calculated to date already exceed 1,000 tonnes per annum. Going on from that, I mean, let's ask, who are the beneficiaries of this scheme? Well, essentially, it's everyone. Businesses benefit from a reduction in their energy usage and their energy bills. Energy bills are a big concern of businesses, and also this supports investment support in their business and growth opportunities. Now, this in turn can motivate other businesses. For example, where you have a business, say on a business park, and there are surrounding businesses, they do talk to each other, and it will also support them in engaging with the installation of low carbon measures. The wider community benefits from reduced CO2 emissions into the atmosphere and supporting the UK national drive to a transition to a low carbon economy. So let's ask the question, why do we do this project? Well, in simple terms, there is an appetite for support to business, and capital grants are an essential factor in motivating SMEs, businesses, to engage with and invest in the low carbon agenda. Many businesses, as I said earlier, are worried about rising energy bills. So this is a win-win for all parties in that it is a unique opportunity for public and private sector partners to drive growth in this sector and to help generate wealth and jobs while supporting the wider economy and reducing carbon emissions. In terms of what was the inspiration behind Greenbelt, the opportunity provided by SETUP was to learn from discussions with a similar project that was carried out in Andalusia, which was the A+ Smart Grid Incentive Programme, which, as Ollie says, I think we'll probably hear about later. We were able to resonate with the findings that SMEs, they trust councils and they prefer going through a council grant application process, as they know it is non-commercial. So there are no hidden charges, which is important, and the work will be done thoroughly in line with industry standards, which is through the use of specified criteria to meet standards. So this really, it's about trust, and this helped us to understand the business's confidence in the scheme, which in turn gave us confidence in the knowledge that a similar scheme has been successful already throughout the application, excuse me, and it was something we could replicate, providing advice, information and assisting SMEs throughout the application process in a straightforward manner, including the robust methodology for the collection of data to calculate greenhouse gas emissions. This is a very important factor because obviously going into it, we need to know what their current consumption is and to be able to demonstrate to them going forward what the potential savings could be with the implementation of low carbon measures. And this process carries on throughout to the awarding of the grants. Okay, then that's pretty much it as a roundup. Are there any questions now, Sarah?
Not now. We will see the questions later on, Michael. But
okay.
Thank you very much for the presentation of Greenbelt. That's a very interesting program to support businesses with energy efficiency measures. So stay with us on stage, of course, for the question.
Indeed, yes, it's quite a unique project here in the UK. So you know, it's been very successful. High demand for it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Switching to Hungary, Zoltan. In Hungary, actually, energy companies have been supported in developing projects with a smart grid dimension. Can you tell us more about the action you have put in place within that?
Well, I'll try. Good morning, everyone. I'm Zoltán Baros, and I've helped the Hungarian partner from the managing authority side throughout the setup project, and I'll try to sum up our results. Okay, well, we picked the policy of our operational program, which is called Environmental Energy Efficiency Operational Program, and within that, it was priority axis number 5, dealing with the energy efficiency and renewable energy sources projects. And within that, it was a measure on the modernization of district heating sector. We basically had an objective to define a support system that could help adopting smart grid approach for the district heating sector. Now, the background for this decision and our methods is based on some factors, like smart grid projects are at the very early stage here in Hungary. So at the beginning of the operational program, there was no really finished projects, only some small-scale projects. It was one factor that we picked up, district heating, and the other is that most of the grants had been already allocated. So we had limited possibilities. District heating sector was one of these that we could pick. And they also large-scale projects, so could probably bring a better indicators. Our inspirations and good practices, well, we listed only 2 here in the slide, but I must say that we learned from all partners well, something. The main inspirations were Andalusia and the planning methodology, and how they contacted potential and future beneficiaries. And the other was SMILE project, which was my personal favorite, I just must say. Because of the interconnection of the various projects. Apart from these two, we really like how Algarve gathered all the possible stakeholders to negotiate and participate in various projects. Also, the good practices that we learned in London about approaching the public and develop campaigns. They were all fantastic, and they all had something that we could sort of learn. Okay, can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So, as I mentioned, we focused on district heating and the modernization of the sector, and we basically picked the side activity that is listed in the core, in the relevant core, which was installation of new adjusting, metering, data collector, remote monitoring system to optimize operation. And while we collected the possible projects that were already been approved and grants have been provided, and we started to negotiate potential beneficiaries to convince them that it would be an interesting and an innovative tool to use in their project. And eventually, we had about 8 projects that intended to use this side activity. 2 from capital, Budapest, and 6 from different towns across the country. But then we learned that some projects had no process at all, so we had to end the subsidy contract. And we also learned that in some cases, the beneficiaries intended to modify the content of their project. So they actually intended to include more of these activities. So as how we stand now, we have 5 projects, 2 from Budapest and 3 from across the country. And they all have a valid subsidy contract. However, in 2 projects we received or are receiving the modification request, by which, as we can see now, the number of end users would be nearly 48,000, by which the affected or impacted residents number would be a bit more than 116,000 people, which is quite okay. And apart from them, some industrial users would be. It's a bit lower than what we expected, but as I said, some projects just didn't go ahead. And also the district heating company from Budapest had to modify the original plans because some of the costs wouldn't be eligible. So we have lower figures. That's basically it. So we had limited possibilities because the funding system is rather decentralized. So we did what we could. It was more negotiations and consultations with the beneficiaries. So that's what we learned. That's how we used our lessons that we learned. I hope it's going to be fine at the end. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Zoltan. And I believe this is an important probably first step for the smart grid transition in Hungary. I have some questions for both of us before opening the floor to the audience. And of course, I invite all our participants to ask your questions on the right side of the screen in the question area and participate in the poll which is running. So Michael, I would like to start with you. You presented Green Bell, this very interesting program that offers financial support to companies to implement low carbon measures. I was wondering, in your experience, what are the main barriers faced by companies in adopting these solutions and participating in the energy transition? Is that a lack of resources? Is that a lack of awareness?
Well, yes, sir. It's certainly there is a lack of knowledge of available grant schemes, which is maybe not surprising. There's also a lack of knowledge around, even if you know there's a scheme going, you've got to have an understanding of, what measures would be available and what would be the best ones to support your business. Okay. And certainly there is a need for support to access grant schemes. In other words, our assistance to the private sector as kind of a bridge between what they want and them being able to access support funding. For example, with Green Bell, the support funding towards measures is 50% of the cost, which is, it's reasonably generous, and it's pitched at a level which is attractive to businesses to encourage them to invest in the low carbon economy. And obviously at the moment, a big barrier, not only in the UK, but the whole of Europe and the rest of the world, is this current pandemic, the COVID-19. And there is a big issue with businesses having to be closed down, particularly in the city of Leicester, which has been one of the upper tiers of isolation, and staff being put on furlough. So obviously this has impacted the progress of installations, but also it's a concern for businesses in terms of their running costs, because if they're shut and they haven't got any money coming in and their overheads are constant and going out, then again they might be thinking maybe they shouldn't prioritize spending money on low carbon measures instead. But obviously we don't want that to happen. We want them to engage with us. So yes, there are many barriers, but it is important that once you do engage with them, that we make the process fairly straightforward, and we sort of a kind of a hand-holding exercise, I suppose. We support them all the way through the process, and we give them guidance on what measures are available, what measures would be more appropriate for their businesses. Sometimes they might think, yeah, I'd like to get some new windows, when actually really what would be far more beneficial would be to improve insulation levels into their buildings, to keep heating, and then look at things like windows as a secondary measure. Changing windows in the UK, it's a very popular measure, but not always the most energy efficient or in terms of reducing carbon emissions. Okay.
Sure. Thank you. And actually the program shows, and you mentioned it, that the funding is definitely a key factor in this shift towards energy efficiency. But you also mentioned the role of other kind of public support, like face-to-face engagement or promotion of results. Can you talk more about that?
Indeed, yes. Certainly, in the last few years, social media has become a very, very useful tool for promoting the message. Not just through things like Facebook and Twitter, although they are the very popular ones, but also for the facility that Leicester City Council has as an organisation to promote these messages through our own social media channels. So, we have one called Your Leicester, which I think goes out to about 75,000 subscribers. It's free, so no problem there. And we recently did a relaunch of Green Bell to try and regenerate some interest in it, because it looked like we might be coming out of lockdown, but now we're back in it. And we've had a massive response. I think we've had a further 232 inquiries, expressions of interest into the scheme. So certainly that is crucial, getting people to engage with it. And then yes, we always carry out a face-to-face meeting with the businesses, but obviously at the moment that's been a little bit restricted. We haven't been allowed to. So we've kind of adapted to that by doing video conferencing, sort of a video survey, where we can engage with the business and they can tour us around their facility with a video camera, and they can then send us information. And we've had quite a good level of success with that. But there is no substitute for actually meeting people face to face, where you can sort of build up a bond and a relationship and to make things work smoothly. In addition to that, there are also the local promotional organisations such as the Leicester and Leicestershire Enterprise Partnership, which is part of Leicester City Council, and also something called the Midlands Growth Hub, which is a more regional organisation. They're based up in Nottingham, but we do have one of their representatives actually work here at Leicester City Council, which is very useful. And again, we have a good relationship with them, and they're able to promote our activities and schemes whenever possible. And obviously, we also do face-to-face promotions of things like relevant local seminars and events. So yes. Excuse me. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. So funding, also other kind of public support services to help businesses in being involved in the energy transition. Zoltán, coming back to Hungary, you explained that your policy action focuses on district heating and aims at making the network smarter to ensure a better energy management. Can you explain why did you make this choice and how this contributes to the national energy targets?
Okay. Partly I mentioned in the presentation or reasons for this decision. Just to sum up, first thing was that as a governmental objective, most of the funding had been already allocated at a very early stage of this operational program. So that seemed to be an important factor. We also noticed that there was a very limited interest from beneficiaries to do this kind of activity. We gathered the results from other calls. So I think it was 6 or 7 calls, and there was only one project that included smart grid elements. It was also important that there were, well, the beginning of the operational program, there were some sample or pilot projects going on, but they were also the very early phase. So there was not much to learn of them. And as far as our other cores were interested, that aimed at electricity development or electricity network development, well, the beneficiaries were not really interested in doing this activity at the moment, because they set up indicators and they received funding for those indicators. Those indicators that were included in the subsidy contract could be fulfilled if they produce the highest possible amount of electricity. So they are not really interested in building in smart grid elements at the moment. However, they also declared that there is a demand for such development in their side, so they could do it in the next programming period. And it's also important that to utilize smart grid elements and to do complete such development, we need network or grid development as well, because our grid or national grid is just partly suitable for using these solutions. Contribution to the national energy strategy. Well, there is an action in the document which aims at increasing the competitiveness of the district heating sector. Some activities or some objectives are listed in the documents, such as using improved technical standards at district heating services to increase the coverage of the sector, so to increase the number of end users. And to achieve such objectives, they find important to meet the demands of the customers or consumers, and some of these demands are comfort demands. That's so actually using smart grid elements and smart solutions. So that would be a key. It's also noticeable that the network at some proportion is quite ineffective. So it's just no use to include metering and very smart solutions at the moment. First, the system, the network needs to be modernized. Okay, so in that sense, within the priorities of the national energy strategy, smart metering and smart solutions are included. Okay.
Thank you, Zoltan. And we have seen the pictures actually of the remote control module implemented in the network. Just in 1 minute, so we can then open the floor to the audience. You represent the managing authority in Hungary. What is, in your opinion, the role of public authority in supporting business and innovation projects in smart grids?
Okay, in an ideal case, I would say it's something like you did. Maximilian presented in I think it was in Brest, I'm sure, but I think so. When he presented that, okay, we're going to release a call next week or next month, or so, working independently, influencing calls should be something. So it should be something like that. In our case, the funding system is quite centralized, so we couldn't really easily change the cause. So our hands were really sort of stuck on the table. So we couldn't do more than using sort of unofficial manners to do this. It was also it's also the fact that the priorities of smart grid solutions couldn't really be taken into account at the beginning. The reason they were not included in the operational program is that because we didn't have finished pilot projects at that moment. So the Commission advised not to include these solutions in the operational program. So, and after that, it was difficult to change, and it still remains difficult to change the course. That's it.
Sure, but then there will be a next a new programming period coming in 2021. So I imagine that the smart grids are part of your strategies for that.
Yes, they are.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Perfect. Zoltan and Michael, I'm wondering, Sarah, if there is any questions from the audience.
Hi, Sarah, good morning. Our audience, in fact, is quite shy at the moment, and I can understand why, because smart grid is not the easiest topic, as we all know, having worked on this project for a few years. So maybe I will start with commenting on the poll results, and then I'm sure that throughout the sessions later, the audience will have more questions and will dare asking something to our speakers. Just so you know, we have a lot of experts in European policy because they all know about ERDF, so what ERDF is, which is good considering that it's a focus of Interreg Europe projects, so we are happy to see that. And it's also understandable that they are a bit less skilled on smart grids. And to make you feel a bit better about this, I want to give you a behind the scene about the project, about the definition of a smart grid. So it was the kickoff meeting in Rennes. We found ourselves around the table. It was the first time we met, and many people were not used to European projects, to speak in English. They were shy, and we were a bit afraid that we couldn't find a common ground for our work. Also because the first challenge was that partners started talking about a lot of different things. The energy systems were different. The energy prices were different. So different numbers of system operators and distributors and legislations. So we didn't know, it felt like a big challenge, but that's when they all got enthusiastic. So in that moment, they start talking about the system, about the energy, and they start working together in order to define some common grounds. And that's how a common definition of smart grids for the setup project came out, which is the second one in our poll, so the more complex one, which take into account not just the fact that the grid is smart, but also that communicates two-way and it's flexible to adjust to the demand. And it's important to see that this definition came from cooperation and from the exchange that we had throughout the project. This definition, together with other findings from setup, is included in a report that we prepared at the end of phase 1. I will put the link in the chat later on so that those who know about smart grid can see and understand in detail what the project was about. And those who don't know much about smart grid can maybe understand a bit more about this fascinating word and be ready to ask more questions later on in the chat.
Thank you, Sarah, for your comments and the explanation of the context of setup that is, of course, very based on interregional learning. Thanks to Zoltan and Michael for your presentation. I will now propose to go ahead with the second panel. So in this first panel, we have seen the importance of funding, but also public support services in making businesses involved in the energy transition and boosting innovation projects. But the smart grid transition builds also on innovative models, new models for business, new models for consumption, new models of governance. And in this second panel, we will investigate how the regions of Brittany and Andalusia in France and Spain boosted the emergence of such new models. So Maximilian Lemaire from the Regional Council of Brittany and Sarah Robles from the Andalusian Energy Agency are already on stage with me. I see you, Maximilian. I don't see Sarah. She can probably join us in a moment. So Maximilian, I suggest you start, and your action in Brittany focused on self-consumption, collective self-consumption actually, as a new way for end users to produce and consume their energy. Please let us know what you have implemented within the project in the Brittany region.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. Hello, everyone. I'm Maximilian Lemaire, in charge of renewable and smart grid energy deployment at the Regional Council of Brittany. Within the framework, and above all, thanks to the setup project works, Brittany region has concluded an action plan, one facet of which consisted in 2018, at the end of 2018, in launching a call for ERDF projects to support the first collective self-consumption loops. And based on the conclusion of our research with each setup members to the workshops on different models of decentralized energy management system, and the idea for involving users, consumers, etc., particularly in communities observed in Portugal, in Portugal, Spain, but also dynamics in the UK, we were convinced of the legitimacy of pushing a model of neighborhood, of sharing renewable energy, but at the same time at the local level. And so collective self-consumption was already in its infancy, but just in proofs of concept and a draft. And the idea of reducing consumption to include everyone and all users, making full use of public electrical grid, led us to think about and to contribute to the first project of this kind and to test it within the setup group. Self-consuming together and not each other. This is the inclusive concept, the involvement of citizens to act beyond their only intuition to consume, or for some of the collective group, to share their production, but in a logic of double interests, personal interests, and common collective interests. Just keep this slide, please. There were then the premises of the regulatory framework in France, but it was incomplete and very recent at this moment. As this was not economically profitable, nor at all identified in its right dimensioning. And we took the gamble, the risk to support with the ERDF program that we manage directly. Thus, 17 projects were submitted and selected. The majority of the projects are between public buildings, three between private buildings, including a project led by a citizen association at the city of Rennes. 2 of them include high school, and we are owner of the high school at the Brittany region site. Next slide. The desire impact to enable to greatest number of people to participate in a solar project, including those who do not have the means to invest in production side, and therefore between neighbors through such a collective loop. And in short, to participate in the massification of the photovoltaic deployment, the resilience of the systems, and the most accurate dimensioning of the system. In conclusion, for us, collective self-consumption is one of the most advanced and promising models of the set of different smart grids models that we cover in SMILE project, another great project among the 88 project in progress in Brittany, especially in terms of users' involvement, citizens' involvement in the energy transition, and in the concrete use of smart grids at their service. Understanding how to give them to better control the local renewables energy supply. The action plan supports this and prefigures an important axis of our next regional solar roadmaps for next decade. That's all.
Thank you, Maximilian. I see that Sara Robles from the Andalusian Energy Agency is still not with us on stage. There is probably a technical problem. I really hope that she will be able to join us in a moment as she's supposed to present a great project going on in Sevilla and defining a new model for urban energy transition. In the meantime, I remind all participants that there is a poll ongoing, so don't hesitate to participate. A new poll, and we will comment on results later on. And of course, ask any questions you have in the right side of the screen. I take the opportunity actually to ask you some question about self-consumption. That is indeed a quite innovative model. Can you briefly explain to our audience what self-consumption is and what is the difference between individual and collective self-consumption?
Yes, thank you, Sarah, for the question. Individual self-consumption consists of producing all or part of what you consume directly on site. Seen from the electrical grid, you are erased. Sometimes you overproduce and this is injected and sold. You know that. While collective self-consumption consists, when possible and appropriate, of pooling production infrastructure, solar, wind, or other, on the scale of several buildings, with consumption profile or consumption levels are complementary. When one consumes, the other does not, and vice versa. As an example, and it's the most virtuous case we know, is when all high school we manage are equipped with solar panels for its self-consumption. At the weekend or during the holidays, we overproduced since the building is inoccupied. However, we can share it with neighboring buildings in the neighborhood, such as a social housing or poor landlords by offering them a fixed, stabilized renewable tariff for instance, 20 years. Everyone wins. Neighbors who can advance in panel benefits from ours, and we don't waste ourselves over producing.
Thank you, Maximilian. And we will know more about collective self-consumption as a new model and about all the projects that have been implemented in the Brittany region during the thematic session this afternoon. I see that Sarah managed to join us. Very happy about that.
Yes.
I pass you the floor so you can explain what you have implemented in Sevilla within setup.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being there. Sorry for the technical problems. I'm going to talk to you about one of the actions included in our action plan, which is the development of a smart grid project in Cartuja area that has been called #SCitySevilla. The policy improved related is the European Regional Development Funds operational program, and more specifically the Line 4D development of an application of intelligent distribution network operating at low and medium voltage. The main objective of City Seville is to ensure by 2025 100% renewable electricity supplying the island at competitive prices. The goal is to involve all the entities, or at least more of the entities in the park that are in total 523 entities, where works or study more than 22,700 people. The project is being carried out through a public-private partnership that is articulated through an open innovation ecosystem. It's organized in 4 areas, which are energy, infrastructure, transport, and buildings, and are coordinated by the project team. The project began just 1 year ago. We are celebrating now the 3rd year of the project. The protocol was signed last November in 2019 between Endesa, with the DSO that operates in the park, in the technological park, and is one of the main promoters of the project. Cartuja Technological Park, the PCT, which are the manager of the park, and Andalusian government and Seville City Council. And now the ongoing activities, the main one is the engagement process, which is not an easy one. We are beginning with the foreign energy audits to get to know about the energy consumption of the buildings, and to propose the energy saving and the energy saving measures, and to study the potential for installing renewables in the buildings. And it's been carrying out several actions on electromobility, like installing lots of charging points. If you can change the slide, please. Here I wanted to highlight the influence of the setup project in city Sevilla. Endesa PCT have participated in setup project as stakeholders. And the interregional learning process has allowed them to know about the good practices in other regions. Their participation have been especially important in the staff exchange in Brittany, where they were together with the general manager of the Andalusian Energy Agency. They could learn about good practices related to technologies, but mainly related to the governance process, which is quite important in a project that needs the implication of different stakeholders. As examples, we have the Smile project. In this project, launched in Brittany, in the region of Brittany and Pays de Loire, has been very successful, the creation of a coordinator team integrated by expert groups and animator. This has inspired, is quite similar to the governance chosen in Cartuja project as well. Another project, for example, Solen project, local energy loops in Capuchin district, have given ideas on how to engage consumers and companies in Cartuja, and how to get stakeholders on board to join them to build an integrated project. More related to technologies, but not less important, is the visit to Yusan Island, where it was a nice smart grid project. And there, the stakeholder in our project had the opportunity to see how it works, the integration of different renewable sources and a storage system. About the impact in our region, of course, the most important impact is that this project is a flagship project that provides 100% renewable electricity, and it will get involved to more than 500 companies and engage to more than 22,000 people. About the energy saving, we have proposed to reduce 30% of the current consumption in Cartuja Island. If you want to know more about the projects, you can go to social media with the hashtag SCT Sevilla. This is more or less the main feature of the project. If you want to know a little bit more about the action of the technologies, pues please ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Sara, for this overview of the eCity Sevilla project that aims at becoming a model of urban energy transition, even at the international level. I have a question about this collaboration process you have put in place with stakeholders. You mentioned the importance of a public-private partnership as a key factor of success in the definition of the project. Can you tell us more about that and about your role as a regional energy agency?
Okay, the Andalusian Energy Agency is the coordinator of one of the groups, which is the group of buildings, and we are of course very involved in these first stages, because the first stage is to get to know about the characterization of the building we have, and to try to get that most of them get involved in the project and participate. And we are very involved in the first energy audits as well. Now we are putting the focus in the big buildings, because I have said we have more than 500 entities, but we now have engaged almost 50 companies, but that suppose almost 40% of the total energy consumption. So the main focus is, of course, being put it in the big building on the island, and the answer has been very successful. We have, for example, the Engineering University of Seville is in the island, and they can give us their technical advice. And for example, the Joint Research Center is one of our neighbors as well, and they are just in this moment building his new headquarters, and they are very involved in the project as well.
Thank you, Sarah. So a very comprehensive project in many years. I'm wondering if there are any questions from the audience. Sarah Banchi, can you join us on stage and tell us about also the results of the poll?
Yes, Sarah, we are so the three Sarahs are on stage all together, as usual. And just a quick comment on the poll before passing on the first question of the day from the audience. So coming to the poll, I just wanted to highlight the fact that the audience got it right. The focus of setup was its global approach, considering three factors, so the consumers, the business model, and the financing. And I would like to just say that setup was very innovative at the time, because instead of focusing on research and infrastructure, it started focusing on the role of policy. This was one of the most innovative characteristics of setup years ago, and it's how it developed, and it's moving towards what our audience got right again, the fact that decentralization is key in this sector. And then there was a question on prosumers, which are not a rock band, but consumers that are no longer passive and can also be active and flexible producer. And on prosumers, we have the first question of the day. I would say maybe for Max, but of course, if Sarah has something to add, for her as well. And the question is, considering the key role of consumers as prosumers, how do you see their future involvement in smart grid development? So Max, I'll leave you the floor to answer this question. Thank you.
It's a question for me. Is correct?
Yes, it's a question from Miriam. Thank you for asking. And I think, Max, you are well placed to answer that.
Thank you, Madam Siciliano. About the future or key role of the involvement of citizen of prosumer. To answer, there are dynamics of association of citizen consumer or association of producer in France, and especially in Brittany, because we animate this network, especially citizen project association, but there are far too few of them. I think it's a minority of cases. So we propose collectively solutions, model, like in particular via Smile project, but via all our dynamics in setup, like the collective consumption models to make new offers for this kind of people. That's all.
Thank you, Max.
I don't know if Sarah has anything to add about prosumers and the involvement of consumers and end users in the energy transition. We can't hear you, Sarah, your mic is off. Your mic is still off, sorry. We can't hear you.
Okay. Okay, now? Yeah. You were speaking about the involvement of consumers in of prosumers in this project. In my point of view, this is the most difficult point, the key point in every smart grid project, and it's quite a very difficult, a very different way of about the point, because, for example, if you are speaking in Cartuja, the consumers are companies, so they have different interests. If you are addressing to small villages, they have another completely different interest. So the key point is to decide how do you have to direct, how you have to address your efforts, because it's, for example, in Cartuja, we have had sometimes problem that the companies, so they don't want to invest, to make a big investment, because they don't know if they are going to be there for a long time. This is quite, you have to think about different solutions and how to solve these points.
Thank you very much. And indeed, I agree that of consumers in the energy transition. So thank you, Maximilian. Thank you, Sarah, for we have seen some pictures of the Cartuja Island where the eCity Sevilla project will be implemented. So I think that it's time for a short break. So we come back at 11:25 for our third panel.
Thank you.
And see you in a moment. So welcome back to our setup final event for this last panel session. Our last poll will be launched in a few seconds, so don't hesitate to participate. So after a focus on funding and models, it's now time to have a look at the future and talk about the support that the public authorities can deliver to smart grid in the long term through strategies and regulations. We'll listen to the experience of our partners in Lithuania and Portugal, with Arturas Krementavičius from Kaunas Energy Agency and Claudio Casimiro from the Energy and Environmental Agency of Algarve. I see that Arturas is already on stage with me. We will try to invite Claudio as soon as possible. But Arturas, please start with the presentation of your action within setup in Lithuania. Floor is yours.
Hello to everybody. Dear attendees, we would like to present some political issues we have tackled during the setup project implementation. Original policy instrument which should be affected by setup actions was National Operational Program for European Union funds investments, and namely its priority developing and implementing smart distribution systems at low and medium voltage levels. We found that this original policy instrument is only partly reflects our direction of action, so we succeeded to introduce a new political instrument, National Energy Independence Strategy, which was drafted namely in the period of performance of setup project. So the action which we undertook and which was successfully implemented in the phase number 1 of the project was amendments, additions, and suggestions to the National Energy Independence Strategy. A key change after this action was extended political focus on smart grid, consumer empowerment, and demand response, which were embedded into a National Energy Strategy, its final documents, approved by government documents, and related to its strategies 5-year implementation plan, also both adopted in 2018. So the results achieved in strategy improvement or amendment, there are several ones. So one of them is that the concept of consumer empowerment, proper concept, was adopted. Also, our suggestions for trading of prosumer excess generated energy in a wholesale market was included. We also suggested to introduce the new player in energy market, namely aggregator or energy service provider. And this role was also included. We have rephrased or extended several strategies provisions in accordance with our targets, our spirit, set-up spirit. And also there are a number of, so say, set-up footprints in various provisions, at least 10 provisions of a strategy. As a result, strategy's 5-year implementation plan, we have suggested several measures, and we found that 9 clauses of a plan have been taken to account by the government, and we consider that we have evident set up footprint in the 9 clauses of the plan. Source of our inspiration, the thematic smart grid analysis reports prepared by set-up partners, regional reports. This we have 3 kinds of reports: for consumer empowerment, for economic model, and for funding schemes. So they give us a strong momentum how to affect our policy instruments. Also, we have very interesting and knowledge-bringing workshops during project meetings, as in Leicester and Seville in particular. Very useful have been the trainings during the project meetings organized by coordinators of our set-up projects, as well as by advisory partner. And finally, site visits to smart grid facilities were very helpful and inspiring. And in a nutshell, we consider that impact in our region was contribution to smart grid promotion through strategy, increased understanding of stakeholders, and amendments, respective amendments to national energy legislation in 2019, and also rising public awareness, including interview on semi-regional, semi-national TV channel, 20 minutes of conversation about ongoing set-up projects. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Arturas. So a very important action with a long-term impact, but already tangible results. Claudio, in Portugal, you also focus on a long-term program. Can you tell us more about that?
Hello, good morning to all. A special word for all the organizers of this conference. It's a new kind of conference that we are not used to work, but it's since COVID started, it's a new way of living. So regarding the Algarve experience on the setup and all the good practices that we have studied and developed, we want to give a special vote to the improvement of the national investment program that we have in Portugal, since the new directives and the new investments to the European Union. The Portuguese government has set up a plan called a National Plan for Investment, that regarding with the horizon of 2030, and energy efficiency or energy transition is a very special part of this plan. So regarding the regional focus, Arial had started to improve in introducing smart grids actions regarding this regional energy strategy. And we had approval 5 programs in energy, where the grids are a subsector of these teams. We have influenced the RED 4. This is the promotion of smart systems for the energy transition, with a special focus on the development of management forms and integrate innovative physical and digital infrastructures regarding the energy transition. Our source of inspiration was the MOIX technology that we have visited with this kind of distributed energy storage. Also, the visit that we rolled out smart meters at PAC's public institutions, and also the dynamic market rates that we have saw at London with the Reagan Energy Agency. So this is, and also we are visiting Vilnius in Lithuania, where our colleague Arturas is a member of the panel. It was also a good practices that we have visited, and we have inspired our approach for the National Investment Program. So also we had observed our neighbor Spain, Andalusia. We had this initiative that they are developed about the incentive lines regarding smart grids. Also, the Ushan Island that we have saw in Brittany, with this kind of sustainable islands, sustainable energy sources that they had on the island. The impact of our region for these measures are the carbon neutrality that we intend to achieve. This carbon neutrality is at 2050. Resilient infrastructures and equipments. So this could be the energy transition for reinforcing, modernizing, optimizing infrastructures, and start this infrastructure with some intelligence. Starting to work with these initiatives for intelligence of the networks. Okay, this is what we had developed. This is what we experienced. That was very fruitful. Our experience at the setup project, and we have internalized these good experiences for implementing and adopting the national calls for the plan. National investment plan for 2030.
Thank you for the presentation of the National Investment Program for Portugal. You actually, as a regional agency in Algarve, you directly contributed to improve this important road for the country to meet the challenge of decarbonization and energy transition. I have a question for you. What is also interesting in this program is the very collaborative process that has been put in place to define actually the key priorities of the program. To what extent the contribution and active involvement of all the stakeholders was key to define the strategy and meet the needs of the territory?
Yes, our participation was more related with this stakeholders group that was promoted by the region, and we were the active part of the energy transition at this group, this stakeholders group. And we start with some ideas and some projects. Some of these ideas and projects was started to be implemented. For instance, we had developed in the region a collaborative network for self-consumption with photovoltaics, with all the municipalities as belonging to this focus group, and start to implement projects. Actually, at the moment, we had a project with the municipality of Lolé, that is one of the 16 municipalities that we have here in the Algarve, and the policy measure that the board of the municipality has developed a focused on objective on 2 megawatts of photovoltaics at the municipal buildings and municipal infrastructures. So this is a good start, and we are expecting that the national investment plan have some funding for these measures, but they started now without financing, but they are expecting to finance. And this was an objective for these projects, because the national and the regional energy strategies set an objective to the municipalities to have 30% of self-consumption at the municipalities' infrastructures and buildings.
Thank you. Once again, the importance of collaboration. That's one of the main lessons learned by our project partners within Setup. Arturas, I have a question for you before opening the floor to the audience. You explained that a set of energy policies, strategies and laws has been adopted in Lithuania for the next decade. What are the key priorities of this set of policies, and to what extent this will contribute to support smart grid deployment in the country?
As regards key priorities, which were expressed in national energy policy documents recently, and the time frame recently covers the period, say, from 2018. So these key priorities, I can list them in order of decreasing relevance for smart grid deployment. Most relevant seems to be rollout of smart metering, adaptation of smart grids to decentralized generation, storage, demand-side responses, and active customers. The challenge is how to adapt, accommodate smart grids to this new decentralized factors. The second key priority could be to ensure advanced electricity markets through flexibility of smart grids and flexibility of active participants, active consumers. More general priority covering not only decentralized sector, but also bigger plans is to achieve renewable energy electricity share in final energy consumption to the level of 45% from total energy consumption, in comparison with current 23%. And the last one could be the target to achieve amount of producing consumers. It means prosumers. Level of 30% of total number of electricity consumers in 2030.
Thank you very much, Arturas, for this overview. Let's see if there are any questions from the audience. Sarah, I invite you to join us on stage.
Yes, there is a question from Irene directly to Arturas. So the question is for you, and it's the following. How did you get the ministry and other national bodies involved? Was it difficult to cooperate with them? So the interest here is in the role you had in managing the work of all your stakeholders. Please, Arturas, share with us your experience.
What is the major point of this question?
What Yes. What did you do? How did you manage to involve the national level, the ministry, in the activities of an Interreg Europe project? What did you do?
Ministry of Energy was the managing authority of our our project in Lithuania. It was the major stakeholder. It organized stakeholder meetings, which were regularly held in the premises of Ministry of Energy. So this factor was very helpful. We informed regularly the ministry and other stakeholders about the ongoing work of set up projects, the new ideas, the experience of partners, and it was found useful, interesting. We received feedbacks to our information and new data presented, and further we were invited to present our comments to the draft documents prepared by the government, and these documents were aforementioned National Energy Strategy, its implementation plan, and further draft laws, amendment laws of law on electricity and law on renewable energy. And we presented, submitted our suggestions through this public opinion scheme, and some of them were included into the final documents.
Thank you very much, Arturas. It is really interesting to see that you had to start at the very beginning of the project to involve the national level to make sure that they would listen to you and be interested in what you were going to say to them. And I think it is a very important aspect of your success and the achievements that you managed to have with the changes in the strategy at national level, and the same for Portugal as well. So as there are no more questions coming from the audience, I will just comment on the last polls and then give back the floor to you, Sarah. There are some questions, and for one question, there is a right answer indeed, and it's the one about the EU Green Deal. So I'm telling you that the right one is to be climate neutral by 2050. So this is the ambitious objective of the European Union. And it's important that we all get used to this new objective at overall European level. While on the question concerning smart grids, there was no right or wrong answers. It was more about checking with you what was your feeling, what you felt was the most interesting aspect of a smart grid. And we had, let's say that the majority of people voted for the answer that was allowing for more decentralized generation and integration of renewable sources. And I think we will have time to see more about the technical aspects of a smart grid later on in the session that we will start at 2 p.m. for European time, so just after lunch. And I will just end commenting on the question regarding the focus of setup. Of course, well, you pick it right. The focus was to improve smart grid policies in 6 European regions. But I have to say also that we very much enjoyed our time together in the exchange, in the work that we did during the sessions, but also in the visits that we had. I'm thinking of the National Pricing Commission in Lithuania, innovative companies in London, energy production sites in Hungary and in Portugal, Living Lab, where you could see really smart grids in actions in France and in Spain. So all of that was a key part of our exchange. And that's why we look forward to hearing to the next session, because we would really like to understand if there are possibilities for us to cooperate again in the future and to meet in person, maybe during the next programming period. With this, I'll leave you the floor to you, Sarah, and I'll say goodbye.
Thank you, Sarah. And of course, we would have offered Rotum, these very nice biscuits to all our attendees if we would have been able to meet all here in Rennes. Thank you, Claudio. Thank you, Arturas, for your presentation. So this focus on strategies and long-term investment programs brings us to looking a bit at the future of smart grids at European level and at the different funding and partnership tools made available by the European Union. Setup has proved that interregional cooperation has the great potential to help regions learn and learn faster from each other in order to define similar targets and adopt a common approach in the development of smart grids in Europe. Charo Camacho is our policy officer at Interreg Europe. She has followed the project during these last 5 years, and I would say supported the project. Charo, very happy to have you here. Please provide us this overview about the state of play and of interregional cooperation, in particular of the Inter-Europe program, and probably some outlook for the future. The floor is yours.
Of course. Thank you very much, Sarah. I'm also very happy to be here, although I can't believe that the project is ending. Even if it's been 5 years for me, it was like a blink of an eye. And I would be happier if we could have met in Rennes, as you said, but well, we hope that for the future we will do that. We can start with the presentation, and I know that you are mostly interested in the future. I have to start though with what we've achieved so far. And you know that during the 6 years we've launched 4 calls. We've supported a large number of projects and partners. 25% of these partners are actually the managing authorities of the policy instruments that you're addressing through your project. And we have supported a total of 258 projects. And the amount of funds you can see here is 322, has been quite evenly distributed among the 4 priority axes that, as you know, is research and innovation, SME competitiveness, low carbon economy, and resource efficiency. Next, please. In terms of outputs achieved, and as you can see here, these figures come from the last round of progress reports, so they are quite updated and they are very recent. We can say, and this is keeping in mind only the projects that finished phase 1, which you can see that is a little bit more than half of these 258 projects that we financed in total. That's even though it's almost half, we have reached almost 100% of the targets that we had at program level for this period. So this is very good news for us, and we think we can say that we are well on track in terms of outputs achieved. Next, please. Okay. In terms of policies improved, which you know is the most important thing in the end for us, we are also quite happy with the successful results that we all together have achieved. You can see here that so far 133 projects, among these projects is set up, of course, have reported policy changes, and you've managed to mobilize more than 700 million euros. This means that you implementing these lessons that you learned from other regions have managed to mobilize these funds. This is incredible and is very successful, and we think that it's very important that we emphasize at this moment that interregional cooperation works and works very well. And as you know, in 2018, we knew that Interreg Europe was left out of the regulation, which has changed, likely for us. But that's why we want to emphasize that interregional cooperation is working very well. And well, you know better than I do that this is that we should continue doing this. And Sarah, you were mentioning we will have the opportunity to meet in the future. We will have the opportunity. I will tell you later. Next, please. Well, you know that together with our projects, the Policy Learning Platform is the other cornerstone of the program, and you as project partners or stakeholders may be familiar to some services like the Good Practice Database or the policy briefs or the webinars, the thematic webinars that our experts organized. But we also have this other service, which are the peer reviews that we offer to all of you, whether you are involved in a project or not. You just need to be a managing authority that has identified a challenge or a problem in your region, and you just want to discuss with other peers across Europe about this challenge. So if that's the case, you can apply. There are no calls, there are no cutoff dates. You can apply whenever you want, and our experts will assess your application, and you may have the opportunity to host a peer review in your region. I invite you to visit our website, because there you can see we've organized so far 16 peer reviews. And you can take there the inputs and the main comments and remarks from the regions that participated so far. So if you're hesitant, maybe this is the last thing you need to get engaged with us in the peer reviews. Next, please. And of course, at program level and from Secretariat, we can't ignore the situation that we are all going through, this very unpleasant situation. But you know, if you're involved in setup, and I think that you may be involved in other projects, you know that we've put in place a number of measures to support you and to help you to cope with this, the challenges and the setbacks that this situation has brought to us. So we invite you to visit also our website to see all the special good practices addressing COVID issues. We've organized also, and we will continue organizing online events addressing these challenges. And you can, of course, address our experts, and you can check the news and events and the policy briefs that we've published so far, tackling this very particular situation. And just to say once again that in this context, interregional cooperation is more important than ever. So we invite you to check all these measures that we've put in place. Next, please. Okay, so focusing a little bit more on the priority axis of low carbon economy. I don't know if you are aware of it, but we have financed 60 projects in total throughout the 4 calls in this axis. And among these 60 projects, 40 of them are dedicated to energy efficiency. However, SetUp is the only one tackling or addressing smart grids, which makes the view a very special project, which you aware for many reasons, but this is one of them. And here you can see how our projects in low carbon economy are distributed across Europe. So it's again quite evenly distributed, and you can see where your peers are. Next, please. And in general, sorry, we have to go back. Exactly. In general, I always like to highlight or emphasize the few aspects of the projects that are saying goodbye that go beyond your more tangible outputs or results. And in this case, well, I think that you're well aware that setup is, like I said, a very special project. This was one of the first projects I got when I landed in the Secretariat like 4 years ago. The first thing they told me is this is the project that got the highest score in the assessment, which is of course an amazing cover letter. But that doesn't mean that then the project is going to be smooth or the coordination is going to run smoothly. In this case, I have to tell you that you honored this score. Setup has been a very nice project to follow and to monitor. I think that this journey of 5 years has been as special for you as it was for me. Being a first call project, you have paved the way for other projects that came later, but in your case, you've also led the way for them. And here I'm highlighting this very creative approach that you had throughout the project and that we had the opportunity to share in different events that the program organized, which maybe for you is a normal thing, but for me, I can tell you I've seen many projects and it's not usual that you address the work and your partners and the exchange in this very creative way. I thank you for that, and thank you for sharing with all the projects that came later. And thank you as well for being there when we've asked you to be with us in our events at program level and at PLP level with the platform, sharing this feedback and this knowledge with other partners. Next, please. I won't talk much about this because you've been discussing this the whole morning. I just wanted to say that it's very impressive that you've managed to influence 7 policy instruments, 4 of them newly added, which means that throughout the work that you've had during these 5 years, you've managed to improve 4 policy instruments that were not planned, that were not included in the initial application form. And you've managed to mobilize more than 4 million of euros, which is, like I said, impressive, and congratulations, and thank you very much for your effort. Next, please. So now, what's about the future? Like I said before, like you already know, we got very bad news in 2018. Luckily for us, this changed. The Parliament and the Council, the Member States, they mobilized, and we managed to bring Interreg Europe back in the regulation. However, as you know, this regulation and the budget associated to it has not been approved yet, but at least you can know for sure that we'll be there in the next programming period. Next, please. So what is new about the new Interreg Europe, which I don't know if this is going to be the final name for the next program, but well, like I see here in the slide, it's not a revolution. We continue being a capacity building program. We continue covering the whole European Union, and our target audience or target groups are mostly managing authorities. However, there are a few things that have changed, and I think that are very important and are going to help you in the next programming period to achieve better results, which are the first of it. I think you're going to be very happy about this. The focus on structural funds is lightened. You know that so far we always ask you to at least have 50% to cover 50% of your policy instruments should be structural funds, which means half of the policy instruments that you're addressing in your project. Well, in the future, we will ask you to have only one structural fund program in your projects. So this threshold of 50% of your policy instrument structural funds will be eliminated. Second of all, we have to go back. Second of all, we are going to promote an implementation approach from the beginning. This is also part of the discussions that we've had with the member states. They wanted to have more pilot actions, more implementation-oriented actions from the beginning. So in the next program, you would have the opportunity to implement pilot actions even in phase 1. And last but not least, and I mentioned before that we have 4 priority axes, but in the future we will have only 1, which we think that reflects very well the essence of the program, which is capacity building, and which will give you and us a lot more flexibility, because you will be able to address in your projects all the topics, all the thematic areas that are included in the cohesion policy for the next program. However, the member states have expressed their priorities and their interest about Smarter Europe and Greener Europe. So we know that more or less, or around 80% of the budget will be allocated to these 2 priorities. But again, you will have the flexibility to address any of the topic in your projects. And if you're wondering about the first goal of the next program, well, we knew recently that the budget and regulation, like I said before, they won't approve it before spring next year, so 2021, which gives us very little time to launch a call the next year. So we think that, being optimistic, our first call in the next program and next programming period will be launched beginning of 2022. So you have time enough to prepare your applications, and I really hope to see you there. It's been a pleasure to share this journey with you, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Charo, for your presentation, and also many thanks for your kind words about the project. I really think that all these results are coming from a teamwork that is based on the engagement of our partners, our stakeholders, and thank you very much for your support during these 5 years. So to continue looking at the future, Marcelo Garboni from the Joint Research Center of the European Commission is also on stage with us. The Joint Research Center has been an important stakeholder involved in different activities of the setup project, and also associated to other project partners such as the region of Andalusia, as Sarah explained earlier. So Marcello, I'm asking you to start your presentation and present what are the main priorities and expectations for Smart Grid for this new programming period that will start in 2021. The floor is yours, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. So my name is Marcelo Garboni. I work for the Joint Research Center. I wanted to start with just a couple of words on what the Joint Research Center is. So because maybe our audience doesn't know. So we are almost 3,000 staff. 75% of us are scientists and researchers. We are headquartered in Brussels, and we have research facilities in 5 different member states. I'm personally based in Seville, in Spain. Next slide, please. The mission of the JRC is, well, we are the science and knowledge service of the European Commission. So we support the EU policy making process by giving independent scientific evidence and advice throughout the whole policy cycle. Next. Coming to the topic of this presentation, the 2021-2027 programming period, I just wanted to set the, let's say, the stage, set the context of what we're talking about. We're talking about the European Regional Development Fund and the Cohesion Fund, which are the principal source of funding for smart grid projects. In the previous programming period, the one that is ending now, it was divided in 11 thematic objectives. Now in the next programming period, the structure of it's going to be simplified somehow. From 11 thematic objectives, we're going to go down to 5 policy objectives. These policy objectives, you can see them in this slide. The one that let's say relates more to the topic of this presentation is the PO2, a greener, low carbon Europe. And if you go into a bit of detail of the 7 lines, let's say sections of this policy objective, the one that is most interesting for us is developing smart energy systems, grids, and storage at local level, then number 3. Next. So having said this, I wanted to tell our audience today that last February, before all this madness began, we were able to meet in person, have a very nice workshop in Brussels on the 6th of February on the very topic we're talking about now, smart grids in the new programming period. On that occasion, we brought together stakeholders and experts in this field to have a discussion and identify the barriers and the enablers of smart grids in the new programming period. And what happened was that we identified some topics of interest. We started by identifying, let's say, what kind of actors should be involved in the design of efficient policies for smart grids. We discussed the issue of internationalization, if it was a tool for better planning for the next MFF. And we also discussed at length funding and support mechanisms for smart grids. This, I'm going to talk about a bit about the conclusions of this workshop because I think they can be quite interesting here. If anyone wants to know more about what we discussed, the agenda, and all the presentations and the outcome of this workshop, the link is here. It's quite a big link, but I think you can copy paste it and you'll get there. And all the presentations are in PDFs and they're available there. Next, please. So, enablers and barriers. During that discussion, let's say that there were many points of view that were brought up. But we can resume that what was said was can fit in 3 main areas, let's say. The first one, there's a need for communication. One of the problems, let's say, one of the barriers is a lack of communication because the community feels a need for a better stakeholder mapping. So in order to create some links between the regional level and Brussels and to create a cycle, a virtuous cycle of information and dissemination. And also there was the need for consumer and citizen involvement early in the projects was expressed. The second area was the area of data. Of course, this is very important because we know that there are many projects related to smart grids that are being carried out. A lot of data is produced, a lot of results, and what happened, a lot of lessons learned, a lot of good practices. What happens is that sometimes this a project starts, is funded, is carried out, produces results, it ends, and is forgotten. So the need for this data to be somehow preserved, used, turned into knowledge, turn into services, turn into policies. This need was expressed during this this workshop. So this is one of the topics that we are going to have to face in the next programming period. The third area was fragmentation. There are many initiatives, sometimes slightly overlapping, sometimes we duplicate efforts, and sometimes we create more noise than actual information. So there's the need for a high-level overview of what is going on in the community to see, let's say, a high-level big picture of the situation. And of course, it's important also to have a map of funding possibilities, because as we know, there are many funding possibilities and they're very complicated to access and sometimes it's confusing. So let's say that in this sense, there's a need for simplification. Next, please. As an answer to all this, these are, of course, during this workshop, all these problems, let's say, these situations have been highlighted and structured a bit, but this is nothing new. For people that, let's say, work in the smart grid domain, in the smart grid industry, we know that these kind of problems have been there for a while. So the European Commission, with the JRC, the DG for Director General for Energy, and the Director DG Regio for the regional development, have been working on this project together with the Pantera consortium called ERDF. It's very difficult to pronounce. ERDF. Well, the European Interconnection for Research, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship. The objective of this project is to create a platform that can aggregate, let's say, all the data that has been, and will be produced under the various initiatives that are that exist right now in the landscape. You can see some here mentioned: ERANET, the Commission's own DG Research, ETIPSNet, and other. There are many, too many to mention. So this, we hope with this initiative to let's say tidy up a bit the situation and create a one-stop shop for, if anyone wants to know something about smart grids, this should be the starting point. From here, there will be information taking the user to all the initiatives, hopefully, and to get a better view of what is going on. But we hope that this will become the first step. When you say smart grids in Europe, okay, let's go see what's going on. Let's go to this website. Next, please. So how do we plan on doing this? The idea is to create. We're going to start with a subset of the functionalities that I'm going to describe here, of course, but it's going to be quite a long process. The idea is to have a digital repository of online where people can find, interested parties can find regulation standards, reports, best practices, use case scenarios, projects overview, project outcomes. So any smart grid project that creates an output, it can save it in this platform, so it will stay there for other people to use in the future. And on top of that, we plan on giving tools for the users, such as a collaboration space with living documents that will be updated as necessary. Some monitoring tools to understand the research and innovation landscape, analytics reports, a news section. So we're going to try to make this something really useful for the community. This system is going to be hosted on European Commission servers. So initially, there's going to be 4 years. This project is going to last 4 years under the current situation, and then the European Commission, with the Pantera consortium and the external developers, and then the European Commission is going to take control of it and maintain it for the foreseeable future. I don't have anything else to add on this, so yeah. This presentation was quite short because I know it's the last one of the day, so of the morning, so maybe people are starting to get hungry. So, okay, next. The only other thing I would like to mention is that at the JRC, we have a lot of projects going on regarding smart grids. This is a really small list of them. We have an interoperability laboratory in 2 of our sites, in Petten and Ispra. We have published every couple of years or so a Smart Grid Projects Outlook, which is a database of ongoing projects, smart grid projects in Europe. We have a map, we have a lot of stuff. I invite the audience to go and take a look at what we offer on the website, that the address is mentioned here. Next. Okay, that's it. These are my contact details. I would be glad to answer any question you might have, either now or in the future. If you want to contact me with anything, I'm very available to answer your questions. Next, I think the presentation is over. These are social media contacts for the JRC. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Marcello, for this overview. Very interesting, this AIR initiative. I don't know if I pronounce it well.
I have no idea.
Okay, let's see. Will it be launched by next year, starting from next year?
Yes, we are in the first phases of development now. I mean, we already have a contractor working on it, so we already decided what it's going to look like, where it's going to be hosted. But yeah, I think hopefully beginning of next year the first stuff should be online.
Okay, that's very interesting indeed. And of course, as a project, we were really happy and proud to contribute to the discussions in Brussels during this workshop. Very happy to see all these results and the new initiatives coming out from this big brainstorming across Europe. Thank you, Marcello, and thank you, Charo. We are now getting to the end of our morning session. We have seen our 6 partner regions are supporting the deployment of smart grids at regional level through business support funding and also support services through the emergence of new models and long-term strategies and investment plans for the future. There is still some work to do to succeed the smart green transition in Europe, and we have seen that interregional cooperation and innovation partnership will continue to be supported by the European Union in the next future. To conclude this morning session, I would like to give the floor to Alain Terpon, Managing Director at Bretagne Development Innovation, the lead partner of the setup project, for some concluding words and maybe an outlook for the future. Alain, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Il faut que tu éteins ton son de sortie. Éteins ton parole. Hello, everybody. I hope everybody is hearing me. I was in the same room as Sarah, so I had her turn off her loudspeaker. Thank you very much. I am very glad and honored to close this morning session. A very interesting session. I had been participating to one of your meetings already, and but it was very good to have an overview of all the projects that have been incubated in or shared within setup, be it on a network, heat network, energy efficiency, smart city, self-consumption. All these topics are talking very much to us in Brittany. And in my closing remark, I will, in the same time, take the role of coordinator because I'm working with Sarah, and the BDI is coordinator of the project. And also I will, after having heard the European Commission, and which has given us the perspective, having heard of research, I will also put my hat of economical development agency. And maybe tell you from an economical point of view, from an entrepreneurial point of view, maybe what we would love to see as a follow-up of this setup program. We, as you know, what we've put in the basket of setup is mainly what we have done in our Smile Britain project. And from this project, we have learned and I think we all agree on this call, that the regional level is really the right level in the same time to share, test, and bring to the ground, to the real ground, our technologies and solution. It's been also obvious for all of us, and for us from our personal experience also, that we have only benefit, but it's more than benefit. It's essential to put in contact all actors coming from the research, from the training, education, and from the innovation. And this way we will go very far, and this is how we will progress, because we need the science, we need the people to implement the science, and we need the companies and the innovation structure to push it and to drag it from the research and bring it into the I would say real world. And I would like the research not to take these words badly, just to implement it, and so that it reaches the ground. And of course, it's been acknowledged also that we need to have prosumers, people who are very proactive in acquiring these technologies and accepting them. And from this standpoint, all what has been done within setup on the business model, on the financing, on consumer sensitiveness is very, very will be very, very precious, because we need all of this to make project. And this is my next point. What maybe I would love to see as a follow-up of setup, again as coordinator, but also as a regional economical agency, is that we create sandbox for experimentations, for projects, for technology to bring the economical world, for entrepreneurs to really deploy new solution based on all the science and technology which is created around smart grids. I guess we have all the tools to do that. We know how to have companies cooperating with R&D research centers. For instance, Europe is actually helping us a lot for that. We are the local correspondent here in Brittany of Europe Enterprise Network, and this is a very powerful tool to put in contact all parties to make projects happen. And we have on other fields than smart grids already experimented some programs. Some of them were interregs, but there is more recently we've used InnoSup programs, and I'm sure that there are plenty that I'm not aware of and that could be used and that could be geared into these smart grids, very promising technologies. And maybe it would help, and that would be the end. If we smart grids, we've seen we all have our own definitions. There are various, there are numerous, they are somewhat consistent, but maybe it could be interesting from this very wide definition of smart grids to just dig into some directions. We know that here in Brittany, we are working very much in hydrogen, in integration of renewable energies, among other with storage, but not only. There are also network issues with self-consumptions. There is a lot to find out from a regulatory standpoint as well. And I know that there is also the national regulatory level, but there are also probably some decisions, some virtuous decision which could be made at the European level. And this is really my wish for the future. And I wouldn't be complete if I hadn't thanked all of you for this participation to the project. Thanks very much. Very appreciated here from Brittany. I have to thank Sarah, of course. Sorry, it's my internal thank. And looking forward to further collaborating with all of you and probably widen the circle. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I think the sound is okay now. Thank you for these final words. Our morning session stops here, but we see you all again at 2 this afternoon for the thematic sessions on self-consumption and storage. To Paris time, let's say, Central European time. I would like to thank all our speakers, our partners, of course, but also our external speakers from Interreg Europe and the European Commission. A special thanks to Sara Banchi from Resolvo for moderating the chat, poll and question area, but also for all the support she provided during these 5 years. Many thanks also to my colleagues, Melody and Elodie, that were in the backstage today to help us with all the technical dimension of such an event. And thanks all for attending. We see you back here at 2 for the thematic sessions. Thank you.